What's up guys, it's Multi here, and today we're going to be discussing how to ace your GXPN exam. Let's get into it. So you probably clicked on this video because you enrolled in the GXPN course and you're about to take the exam and you're wondering how you study. Or maybe you just got the course and you want to study for it. Well, I'm going to discuss kind of the lessons that I learned while taking it, and then also go into the strategies that I used to perform well in the exam. Doing well in the exam really boils down to three things, in my opinion. The first one is completing all of the lectures and all the labs, and then making sure you do a really good job of capturing that in your index. The second one is to focus on those challenging parts that you were going over and maybe missed a few questions on. And then the third is going to be getting more practice in the areas that maybe you should go outside of SANS to get more practice on. So I'm going to dive into each of these categories, display how I index everything, display what I mean by the more challenging parts, and then kind of go into those areas that I went to get practice outside of the GX sphere before I went into my exam. So one thing I forgot to mention is at the very end of the video, I'm going to talk about if I think the exam is worth it and how I use this exam in my everyday life. And I'll also go into some of the details about the exam, such as the format and any other questions that you might have. So another thing that really gets me is that I have exam anxiety. And so when I go over this, I want you to keep in mind that I get really stressed out when I'm in these exams. So I need everything to be dumbed down for me because I just get so stressed out, especially because these exams cost so much. So when making an index, this is what I focus on. I first try to get down the terms, obviously sort them in alphabetical order, right? Because you're going to be stressed out. You're going to want to just be able to quickly find them. If you sort them by book, then you're going to have to remember in which book the topics were. I just wouldn't recommend doing that. So I sort them alphabetically. Then I have a book number in the next column. Now you'll see that this is color coded. I'll get into that. And then of course a page number. And this one is up for debate. Some people don't like descriptions. I personally like descriptions. It takes me about 15 seconds more when I'm adding the entry into my index, but it's really worth it because if I am really sure about this question, or the answer that is, then I don't even need to open the book because then it's here, it's in my description and it's done. So why do I color code it? Well, the reason is because I get really stressed out when I'm doing exams. And so generally, I don't know if this has been your experience, but my experience of these Pearson testing centers is they don't give you enough space on your desk. So you kind of have to like have your books, like you need to be looking through multiple at a time. And so I like color coding it because say for instance, we decided to figure out this 32-bit Windows, right? The description doesn't provide us enough context to answer the question. And so we need to get to book 5, page 6. I like this because I don't even need to pull the books down enough to be able to see the numbers on the side. I can just pull them down enough to see the colors. And because I know it's the pink one, I can just pull this out. And then I have the book right here and I can just go to page 5 really quick. That's why I like that. So I color code mine just because it's easier. And when I get really stressed and I just want to kind of move the books around to try to find it really quick, I can do that. The next thing that I highly recommend doing is inside of your books, section them off, at least by section. And I have this schema that I go into the exam with. At the very top, I have tools. On the side, I have the chapters. And then on the bottom, I have definitions that I struggle with. And you'll see that sometimes I do have a, like I have a tool over here because I ran out of space. So I do like color coding those as well. But with this general format, it makes it easy because then if maybe there's sometimes there are definitions that are too big for like the index. It's nice because I can just throw those in really easily. And then I can find them very quickly. The next most important thing is going to be making sure that you understand the most challenging parts of the course. And that's certainly going to be the reverse engineering. And in my opinion, also the privilege escalation was kind of complicated because it went a lot of different ways. I would say make sure you know the reverse engineering and make sure you know all of the buffer overflow stuff. Make sure you understand the privilege escalation, you go through those labs, and then just understand all the different tools because sometimes I had used a secondary tool that I kind of knew, kind of didn't. So in my indexes, I also have a section where I put all of the tools that I want to use. That way I don't have to search the index for it because that's kind of a very particular thing. I'd rather go to a section and then see the different tools and then the labs that correlate to how to use them. Finally, my last tip is going to be to make sure that you get practice. And that's practice within the labs, doing them, sometimes redoing them too, but also practice outside of the course. And what I mean by that is now we have LLMs. Now, obviously, SANS doesn't want you to put in their information into an LLM, and you have to respect that. But there are other places that have similar labs. You can just throw that stuff into an LLM and then have it spit out similar kinds of questions that you might get, just to make sure you know all the different items that you're being tested on. Additionally, I would highly recommend you look at seed labs. So let's go into that and see what that is. So while I was at Purdue and I was studying there, we went into some of the reverse engineering stuff, and that's how I knew about seed labs. Now, they do have a Udemy course with lectures associated with it, so you can get more reps that way. But really, I just went to their labs, and inside of their software security section, they actually have buffer flow labs that are really, really similar to the SANS ones. And so it just gives you more reps of a similar topic and a different perspective that may help when you get those more challenging questions on the exam. Hopefully, by prepping a good index, by doing all the labs, by trying to understand all the different tools that you have and all the different instances of when to use them, and then having a lot of practice, you'll be able to ace the exam. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I did not ace the exam. I missed it just by 1%. But I'm hoping that taking my advice on focusing on the tools and focusing on that reverse engineering and privilege escalation, those are the parts that I struggled on with the multiple choice and on the CyberLive questions as well. So hopefully focusing on those items, you'll come into the exam really confident and able to do a really good job. So before I wrap this up, I want to cover if the exam was worth it. In my specific instance, I would say it was. It gave me some better context. When I'm asked to do things that are related to network pen testing, I feel a lot more confident. I did have the GWAP cert, and so I do a lot of web app pen testing in my everyday job. But sometimes they want me to test something that's on the network side, or they want me to look into different threats. And just having this background is really helpful when understanding privilege escalation and some of the other tactics that aren't really touched very much in web application penetration testing. So overall, that was really helpful. On the side where I do my military stuff, the GXPN is a lot more helpful because there is a lot of network stuff, and there's also some of the reverse engineering types of workshops and stuff as well, that just having this as a background really makes me feel a lot more confident when I walk into that room and I'm doing that kind of work. And so I would recommend taking this if you already have a pen testing cert and you just want to get that more knowledge in the area. But I wouldn't necessarily take this as the end all be all and you'll become an expert. This is something that you're going to have to keep up with. And so I would recommend that you take this as a good way to dip your toe in the water, because that's really all this is. Even though it's labeled as an advanced pen testing cert, it's just scratching the surface because there's just so much to this space. So I would take this with the understanding that you're going to learn a little about a lot, and you're not going to dive in super deep into some of these advanced topics. You're not going to become an expert when it comes to reverse engineering. And so I highly recommend that if you want that background and you want to feel just better about a lot of different fields within pen testing, you get this cert, because it's really going to help you feel more confident in learning about other areas. You're not going to come out of this cert as a hotshot in hacking. I'll just say that. All right, that's it, guys. Hopefully you found this helpful. If you did, please leave a like. If you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe. I am thinking about posting some of the AI hacking stuff that I'm doing on my spare time, along with hacking AI specifically. So I'm building tools with artificial intelligence to aid in my hacking, but I'm also hacking large language models and trying to bypass their controls. And so if you want to see those types of videos, please let me know. Please comment. I have like no subscribers right now, so probably someone who tells me a direction to go, I'll probably just go just for the hell of it. So anyways, you guys have a beautiful rest of your day and keep on learning.